All right. It's going to be a little Christmas Eve show. Expecting it to be a little light today, but that's okay. I can't believe it's already Christmas Eve. I can't believe it took me almost the whole year to get started doing this live stream. Kind of slackered on it a lot. But, had a lot of things go on. This year. A whole lot of bits and pieces. So I'm okay with that. Some of these I'm putting together because I want to just be able to say, hey, I've talked about the vocal minority versus the silent majority on a bunch of occasions, and I think you should go, if you want to talk more, go check out the video. It makes my life as a streamer a little bit easier, because trying to keep the politics off of my gaming channel, trying to keep the gaming off of my politics channel, try to make it sure that everybody can get the type of quality they want. What's up? It's T-Elf. What's up, T-Elf? First time chatter from T-Elf. First time chatter on this channel. But yeah, so this was something that over the, as we look back on 2022, we do our reflection. This was one of the things that it was recommended by more than one person. If you want to talk about politics, Jay, talk about politics, but keep it off the gaming channel. So trying to do that. Trying to make that the thing for next year. Moving into next year. I do plan on doing this every week. It's my opportunity every week to kind of just talk to the people, talk about issues that, need to be talked about, because I think that that's a big problem we don't have. We don't have talking about the issues we need to talk about. What we end up talking about, and we end up talking about the issues that are what the vocal minority wants to talk about. I'm sorry. Yeah, what the vocal minority wants to talk about. The very loud, the loudest group comes from the smallest demographic. Now, this isn't always a bad thing. Throughout today's show, I do want to start off with the premise that the vocal minority is the loudest group from the smallest demographic, and the silent majority is the people that don't say anything, because truthfully, why would you say anything if you're content? Why would you say anything if you're happy? And this is a trend that we need to break. We need to teach kids. We need to teach students. We need to teach parents. We need to teach the disenfranchised that if you are happy, say something. If you're upset, say something. We're going to talk about that throughout today's show. And then, like I said, it's a light day. It's Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. So the big thing is, a lot of people don't understand this idea of the silent majority. As I interact with a lot of different gaming companies, a lot of different companies that I do CPI events for, I find that they don't understand this mentality, this idea of the silent majority. As everybody knows, you should be aiming for Lean Six Sigma. You should be aiming for like 99.9999% effective. It's very rarely going to happen. Very, very, very rarely are you going to get to that level, but it's the level that you should strive for. It's the promised land. The problem is, people are always going to be unhappy. People are going to be unhappy about anything. People are going to be unhappy about, there is a demographic that will be unhappy about every single thing. It doesn't matter. Something could be 99% perfect, and instead of them enjoying the 99% perfect, they're gonna focus on the 1% bad. You can't help those people. The thing is the silent majority are the people who don't talk because they're content. Lots of people think everyone with an opinion of some kind will respond if you ask a question. What do you think about the current administration? There are a lot of people who simply won't answer. I think it's great. Well, what does that mean? I think it's bad. Well, what does that mean? You can't just rely on the first answer. You can't rely on the knee-jerk answer. You gotta dig into it. I know that the mainstream media has convinced people that polling is relevant. Polling can be absolutely relevant. We're going to talk about one of the things a little bit later. I love how we see a poll about the national whatever, a national concern, but the poll is 1,500 respondents. 1,500. If you see a poll and in the bottom it says that this is the aggregate of 1,500 respondents, don't even pay attention to that poll if it's talking about a national level thing. Because that means you ask the wrong people the wrong questions. Some people can't articulate what they think. You're absolutely right. Some people cannot articulate what they think. I agree with you. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, I did an entire show on school reform. The ability to articulate what you think is something that needs to be happening in schools. You're absolutely right. There's people that get out of high school. There's people who get out of college who can't conjugate a sentence with two hands and a flashlight. They can't carry a thought in a bucket. And yet we're going to ask them, well, first of all, the scary part is we're going to ask those people to vote. Second of all, we're going to ask those people questions in an easy to select format. And then we're going to make decisions on their respondent data. That's dangerous to me. That's dangerous. Think about your own life experience. Okay, think about your own life experiences for a second. And I've done this over on my gaming channel, but I want to do it over here. Think about your own experiences in life for a second. You go to a restaurant. You get amazing service. You get absolutely amazing service. Do you call the manager over to tell the manager that the server gave you absolutely amazing service? Or do you just bump the tip up a little bit? Most people are going to say they bump the tip up a little bit. And the reason why is waiting for the manager to come over to give a compliment. That takes time. That takes time out of your day. That's you're willing to throw a few dollars. You're willing to tip 22% instead of 20%. But you're not willing to wait 5 minutes for the manager to come over. And that little data point, the manager coming over, that's going to be important a little bit later in the show. But what about when you get bad service? You're willing to wait as long as it takes to talk to the manager. You're like, you know what? Yeah, I'll wait. I want to talk to the manager. And the thing is why are you waiting for the manager? Are you waiting? There we go. New follower, T Elf. Are we waiting to talk to the manager because we want to improve the overall service? Or are we waiting to talk to the manager because we're looking for compensation? We're looking for something to be taken off the bill. Most people will say they'll report really good service. And they'll report all bad service. But why? Why is it you'll report all bad service, but you'll only report the really, really good once a year, once every couple of years, great service? You're like, you know what, I'm going to go out of my way and I'm going to talk to the manager. It's, the vocal minority. When you're angry about something, you're looking for somebody to engage with you. Sometimes it's not even about getting something for free. That's what you kind of wanted when you started going after the engagement. You were looking for something for free, but you feel satisfied because somebody listened to you. Versus the silent majority, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna put a couple more bucks on the tip line, and that's gonna fix it. It takes time to give complaints. That's what I wrote down here. It takes time to give complaints. You don't want to waste your time giving a complaint, because you're not going to get anything out of it. But if they think they didn't get their value, they will voice a complaint. I'll tell you guys right now, I've taken to keeping a running tally. If I complain about bad service somewhere, I make a little note in one of my notebooks. So if I complain about service somewhere, then I keep an eye out for good service somewhere else. I actually did this for Southwest Airlines. I got to the airport. I needed Southwest's help. The person that helped, I gave him a shout out on Southwest. Southwest responded and they said, give us your flight number so we can look up who worked on your flight and give them kudos. Normally, I'd be a little hesitant to do that. Like, is Southwest looking up what the person did because they did something they weren't supposed to? but I've done this with Southwest a couple of times. A couple of years ago, I gave Southwest a shout out on Twitter while they were getting about the masks. And I gave them a shout out on Twitter to just put some counterweight to a Karen who was just being belligerent on their Twitter. And I threw a positive comment out. They gave me like 5,000 airline miles. It was just something they didn't have to do, but it was nice. And I found that, I feel better about myself as a consumer. I actually do feel better about myself when I give the compliments. Thing that I wrote down in my book, because I prep the shows. I have my notes. Thing that I've encountered with restaurants. Mary handles 32 tables in a day. You got a server. Her name is Mary. Whatever her turns are, she's got 3 turn 8. She's got she's got 6 turn 5 plus 2 pickups. Whatever she has, she handles 32 tables in a day. What is the typical management response? Somebody complained about her. 1 table in the day complained about her. During the day, Mary made 1 mistake. Happened to catch a Karen. Mary gets a complaint. At the end of the shift, what does the manager do? The manager pulls Mary in the back, and not every time, but statistically speaking, what's going to happen is that manager is going to walk around all day and is going to have this little, write-up, this little, you failed this table. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with the manager pulling somebody to the side and talking about them when they get a customer complaint. Well, my question is, what about the 96.8% of tables that Mary served that day that had no complaint? 96.8% customer satisfaction rating. That's absolutely amazing. 96.8% customer satisfaction rating. But you're going to focus on the 1 table that had 1 complaint. I would love to be running a restaurant where 96.8% of my customers were satisfied, or satisfied enough that they didn't voice a complaint. I would love for 96.8% of my clientele to be the silent majority, satisfied enough they didn't feel the need to voice a complaint. I would love it more so for them to be giving positive comments. We need to change how we view the world, how we view situations. Everybody needs to do it. Managers need to do it. What's up, Scoop? Managers need to do it. Customers need to do it. Clients need to do it. Everybody needs to do it. We need to change how we engage, and we need to stop being the silent majority. We need to become the vocal majority, and that's how things start to change. I've noted, like I told the story yesterday. I went in. I moved to my current house in 2016. When I got here, I still had Gizmo was 3, so she needed Disney Channel. My wife would have gone insane without having the Disney Channel. And so I got, Comcast. I got a landline phone because it was a requirement for my job. I had to have a landline phone. I got paid to have it, but I had to have a landline. I needed cable for my 2 of my kids were still kind of TV kids. And then I needed internet. A couple of years later, Gizmo was no longer about Disney, no longer Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, so we got rid of the cable, and I retired. I didn't need the phone. Well, apparently, whoever took care of that for me at Charter didn't actually close the package out. And so, I don't know, about 2 years ago, give or take, I got a phone call from a salesperson offering me, we've got all these amazing deals we'd like to offer you. And I said, no, thank you. Well, what they must have done is gone in and looked at what I was paying, and they literally upgraded me back to having cable TV, and they gave me my phone number back. Well, 3 days ago now, I got the little notice from Spectrum. My bill had gone up. And I was like, okay, this is getting a little pricey. I was going to do the usual thing. I was going to live without internet for like 2 days. And I was going to cancel the internet, and I was going to have my wife go in and set up the internet, and then we would get the new customer deal. And I said, no, let me just go into the store. Let me just upgrade to gig internet and see if I can't sweet talk them into giving me a new customer deal. A lot of times you can get them to do that. The people in the store, they don't care. Guy opens up my file, and he's like, can I get the number on your account? I gave him my cell phone number. He's like, no, I need the home phone number. I said, I don't have a home phone. He's like, yeah, you do. I was like, no, I don't. He showed me my account was all cobbled together. He looks at it and he does something. He actually looks at me and he's like, I'm going to be completely amazed if this goes through. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I have to get home, install the new modem, let it do its thing, and then do my Friday Ashes 101 show. Guy writes down $39.99 on a little slip of paper. And I'm like, he's like, don't say anything. That's my boss over there. I went from paying 110 for 500 down, 20 up. Well, 400 down, 20 up. To last night, in the middle of a charter outage in my area, I now have nearly 700 down and 40 up. I'll take that. I'm that helps. Doubling my upload speed when you upload a lot of videos, when you do a lot of Twitch streaming, doubling your upload really, really helps. So I'm good with that. That guy, if I could have given that guy a kudo, I would have said something, but he was like, shh, that's my manager. Don't say anything. That's the example of when, but I said, thank you. Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a happy holiday. I wish I could have done something more for him because he did something good for me. I also want to point something out, and I'm not trying to breed a culture of complainers. But as a business owner, if something is bad and you don't tell me, I may not know that. Owning bars, owning restaurants, owning apartment complexes and rental units, and diversifying myself of all that now as I get older, I don't want to be bothered. I want to enjoy retirement and do this. This is what I want to do. Streaming on this channel, the record label, the community, that's what I want to work on. I want to put all my efforts on that. You don't tell me something's bad, I don't know. How would I know? Well, you should have known. I'm sorry, I left my magic crystal ball packed up. I didn't know there was a problem. I didn't know there was something you wanted me to fix. If you told me there was something you wanted me to fix, I could have fixed it for you. The big thing I talked about earlier was what really bothers me, what I really, really struggle with. What I really struggle with is seeing a poll on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, and it'll say something like 79% of Americans think Jalan is a jerk. And then you look at the polling data underneath and it says based on 1,507 respondents. 1,500 people is never a response group. 1,500 people is never a response group to how America feels. And this is the big piece. This is the big problem. We have polls and polling data that make it seem like there's a problem. And here you have millions of people watching a news broadcast getting spun up on a polling response that was 1,500. And it's kind of embarrassing. You have millions of viewers, and you literally have millions of viewers. Fox, MSNBC, CNN, they have millions of viewers, and you can't figure out a way to get more than 1,500 respondents. This is one thing. I don't know how many of you are old enough. Well, there's not a lot of you here today, and that's okay. I don't know how many people are old enough, if you're watching the VOD or the podcast, to remember Ross Perot. Ross Perot had an interesting idea during his campaign. He wanted TV sets, because this is kind of like before the mainstream internet was available. He wanted TV sets like the Nielsen boxes. And he wanted to be able, he said, if I run for president, I want to have a system where I can ask every American a question or two, but never more than 3 a day. So you would get home, The question of the day would be on TV, and then you would have a box in your household, and you would answer the question. You're 26, yeah. You're a little young to remember Ross Perot, but I think that in the modern era of everybody having one of these, almost everybody has a phone. Almost everybody has home internet. We get 1,500 responses, and we act all surprised, right? You voted for Ross. I voted for Ross in my school election, in my little paper election. I wasn't old enough to vote yet. So no, Twitter polls. Yeah, Twitter polls are another one of those things. The problem with Twitter polls is this. And I've demonstrated this in gaming communities. I've set up polls specifically in gaming communities, made sure certain people got the poll, and then noticed immediately after I give a person a poll, a link to a poll, the data gets skewed one way. Because I say something inflammatory where I'm trying to advocate that something you want be taken away. And then what do? You get all your friends to respond to the poll. You get all your friends to respond to the poll to skew the data. The other thing is you should never be able to see poll results while the polling is happening. You should never, ever be able to see polling results. I mean this with the presidential elections as well. Elections, there should not be allowed to be polling data. There should not be allowed to be reporting, precincts reporting. None of that, because it's all crap. There's a movie with Chris Rock in it. It's from 2003. It's called Head of State. In the movie, they've got a black guy running for president, and what happens is, yeah, it absolutely influences votes. In this movie, the white Republican, I believe, says all isn't lost yet, and they do a news piece where they say, a black man is about to be president. And then in the movie, you see all the white people in the suburban neighborhoods. They do. It's a great shot. And from 2000, you got to remember, America in 2003 was a different country than it is now in 2022. Comedy was different. Jokes that would have been okay in 2003 aren't okay in 2022. But the shot they do is, I'll remember vividly. You see a guy sitting, he gets this news from the white Republican that a black man's about to be president. So he gets up and starts running out of his house, and it spans up and it shows the block, and it spans up and it shows the whole neighborhood. And you've just got all the people running to the polling place. And that's what happens. That is what happens with these elections. You got to remember that there is demographics for who votes, when they vote, how they vote, at what time of day they vote, and you've got people that don't go vote because the polling data says you're on your way home from a long day at work on election day, and you hear that the Republican candidate is up by 23%. And you're like, he's up by 23%. I'm not going to go vote. Well, the problem is that they've been reporting certain precincts. And again, they say he's up by 23%. He's up by 23% with 10% of the polling places reporting. Then he's not up by anything. He's up by 23% with the Republican districts that are normally smaller reporting. If you want your vote to matter, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is you have to go vote. For your vote to matter, you must go vote. And you cannot be the silent majority on election day. And if you are the silent majority, I believe in the expression, if you don't vote, don't whine. If you are a member of the silent majority on election day, then remain a member of the silent majority until the next election. Period. Can I imagine Andrew Dice Clay in the current time? No, I can't. And this is why, and to bleed the silent majority discussion into the cancel culture discussion, the problem with cancel culture is that we are forgetting the things that made our society what society is, right? We shouldn't keep talking about the war on drugs in the 80s because it paints black people in a bad light. So you want to forget the war on crack, because it wasn't a war on drugs. So everybody remembers this. It wasn't a war on drugs. It was a war on crack. Because if you remember, the penalty for like 5 crack rocks, was 20 years. But you could have like a kilo of powder and not have a problem. When they always make it seem like a race when they're just counting votes, 10% of voting data counted. Yeah. I think, and I'll probably do a video on election reform because I think we need to talk about that one too. But I'm tired of cancel culture. If you want to say something, unless it's an ism, and unless it's actually an ism, right? Last week I talked about gender equality versus gender fairness. I'm gonna put myself. I'm gonna shave off a bunch of weight so that I'm actually the appropriate military weight. I'm 175 pounds, right? I'm 175 pounds. I'm wearing 80 pounds of gear, right? So, all in all, I'm 255 pounds. I get shot in the leg. I'm in combat. Yeah, I did gain. I gained a bunch of weight due to some medical issues. 255 pounds. And you want a 5'2", 110-pound female to be able to be in combat units because of gender equality. Because everybody has to be able to do everything. Okay. But how is that 5'2", 110-pound girl wearing her own 80 pounds of gear gonna be able to pick me up fireman carry style and get me to safety? She's not. I'm all about everything being as equal as it can, but I think things need to be fair. I think the way that we do election reform, we do election reform by making it so that nobody says anything until it's time to announce. 100% of the votes have been counted. New York, how do you vote? Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, going down the border, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, go from top to bottom, left, or top to bottom, right to left, or you could do it another way. Nobody can report their numbers. Nobody can report their numbers till everybody's ready to report their numbers, and then you just go with the mega states first. California, boom. Texas, boom. New York, boom. Florida, boom. Illinois, boom. Michigan, boom. Where we at? Do we have a president yet? See, my other problem, and to bleed over into election reform just a bit, because the majority, the minority is all. These topics aren't singletons. You can't have these topics in a vacuum. I don't think California should stay one state anymore. I don't think Texas should stay one state anymore. I don't think New York should stay one voting state anymore. If we don't want to create more states in the union, which, by the way, the whole setup of the Senate being equal and the House of Representatives being proportional, that's all stupid anyway. It worked great when we were 13 colonies. But you simply cannot say the population distribution weight of the electoral college is stupid, by the way, as well. We'll get into that probably not next week, maybe the week after. But the problem comes in. Voting is always an example of the silent majority. Voting is always an example of this. It's also an example of the vocal minority. You have a group of people that are out there on election day. And this happens. You have pastors, you have community leaders that it's kind of like the movie Gangs of New York, where Bill the Butcher goes in and grabs up all the Asians who work for him, and the Valen's son gets all the Irish to vote, and then shaves them and shaves their mustache and their beard, and they vote a second time, shaves their sideburns, they go vote a third time. Tammany Hall makes the joke. He says, we've already got 30,000 more votes than there are registered voters. It's ridiculous. But I think that if, we don't do something about the silent majority versus the vocal minority, we're going to continue to not be able to make any progress as a people. I mean, right now, if you take polling data from around the US and around Europe, the majority of the citizenry in countries say that their country should be doing more to help Ukraine. And I agree. I agree. But the problem is, what do you do? What do you do? And are the people, and this is the problem. I am not against people in the United States saying the American military should get involved in some way, shape, or form with helping Ukraine. I'm not against that. I'm a vet. But what I am against is them saying we should get involved in the war in Ukraine. Okay, so you're ready for your taxes to go up, your benefits to go down, the availability of certain goods to go down. And they're like, well, no, I don't want that. Well, what exactly is it you want us to do? See, all of these issues are all tied together. We need school reform because we need smarter people. We need election reform. We need election reform because we need better leaders. We need, I wouldn't say it in your words, but states should be divided, but maybe just ranked choice voting. I think, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in election reform. I'm going to do a whole show on that. I'm against the $2 billion yearly budget for military if we have homeless and housing crisis. Only $2 billion. I don't know what country you're from, but only $2 billion. Shit, $2 billion was half of my annual budget for one thing. I had a budget of $4 billion for one inventory item, and I burned most of it every year. But no, I'm against having a multi-$100 billion budget for the military if we have homeless vets. Yeah, $2 trillion. There you go. There you go. What is the military defense budget for next year is $857 billion. With legislation for $816 billion for the Department of Defense and $30.3 billion for national security programs within the Department of Energy. So yeah, our budget for the military next year is $816 billion. $816 billion. That's a lot of billions, which is fine because we're not at war with anybody. But there was a line in the TV show The West Wing that, shows the difference between the two political parties. The Republicans want a really big military, and they don't want to send it anywhere. The Democrats want a really, really small military, but they want to send it everywhere. That's the problem. But no, I just saw a speaker. I didn't get it. I didn't catch his name. I catch a lot of the newsreels and stuff. Congressman in the House of Representatives says we have a rule that we have 3 days to read a bill before we vote on it. Okay, we have 3 days to read a bill before we vote on it, and the bill he's referencing is a 4,400 page bill. 4,400 page bill. At 3 days to read that, right? 4,400 page bill. divided by 3 is 1,466 pages a day. Divide that by 8. That's 183 pages an hour. Divide that by 60. That means you're reading 3 pages of Bill every minute for 8 hours a day for 3 days. That's a lot of reading. I want to bring up a point. I don't think there should be 4,400 page bills. I don't think there should be 4,400 page bills. I think all our bills should move to being clean, no pork bills. This is what we're trying to do. 3 pages. This is how we're funding it. Here's the funding addendum. I believe you are at war. We are at war right now. No, we're not at war right now. Maybe you could define it as a new Cold War. I mean, if you're talking about the war, we're not at war. We're not actively fighting anybody. We have troops in a bunch of different places, but we're not actually we're not kicking anyone's ass at the moment. Yeah, they said they should just vote it because they should trust whoever made the $4,400 bill. I think Grumpy Old Man and I talked about the original COVID bill that passed and then needed to be rescinded because there was a really big typo in it. Everybody voted it. It passed. And no, we are not supporting Ukraine with drone strikes in Russia. It is absolutely false. No, we are not. The United States military is not conducting any drone operations in Russia. Blanketly false. Blanketly false. We are giving the Ukraine the military hardware for them to conduct their own drone strikes, but we are not. The U.S. military is not engaged in any hostile actions against Russia. The media keeps saying this shit. Conspiracy theorists keep saying this shit. We are absolutely not doing that. There aren't Reapers, there aren't Predators being used. There's the smaller drones that are being used, but those drones we're giving to the Ukraine. Sure, we're giving them to the Ukraine. We're teaching the Ukraine how to use them. We're training them how to use them, but we aren't actually conducting our own. We're not conducting drone operations. That would be an act of war against a nuclear power, and even though Russia's nuclear arsenal is antiquated, they have enough of them. See, when it comes to nuclear weapons, there's this whole cascade failure thing. So if you have 10 nuclear missiles, right? If you have 10 nuclear missiles and you order them to be if you order all your people to turn the keys, it's well known that 3 crews won't turn the keys. And that's why you have so many redundant crews. So you ordered 10 missiles to launch. 3 crews won't turn the key. So now you're down to 7 missiles launch. 1 will fail to initialize. Now you're down to 6. 1, the bay door won't open. So now you're down to 5. And 1, the missile won't launch itself. So now you're down to 4. Of the 4 missiles you launched, 2 will go up into space and not redirect and come down. You're down to 2. And of the 2 that actually do come down, 1 will hit its intended target. That's why back in the Cold War, when we had the nuclear arms race, that's why we built so many missiles. That's why we built so many of the things, because we said if the president orders 10 nuclear weapons to be launched, 1 will hit the target and 1 will hit somewhere else. And the problem is, when you're talking about a missile coming back out of space, having about a 15% margin of error, I want to let you know that when you fired a missile from 7,000 miles away, you're talking a margin of error of 1,000 miles, right? Walking a tight line there. No, I agree with you. We are walking a tight line, giving Russia the drones that we're giving them, training them. We are walking a tight line. Absolutely. And the Air Force just recently, well, the Air Force wants to give the older model Reapers to the Ukraine. And I will tell you right now, I don't know if we've shipped any Reapers to the Ukraine. I don't know if we've given them Reapers yet. We've given them Switchblades. Switchblades are the drones that you literally just reach inside of your jacket and you throw them up and they open, and then you've got your little remote control on them, and then they have a weapons payload in the front. They're really useful for destroying tanks, especially if the hatch is open, because you just fly them in. Like, for the people that realize this, everyone's like, well, how is the Ukrainian military destroying all these tanks? It's really easy to destroy a tank if you can drop a grenade in it. Once you destroy the inside of the tank, all you have left is a big pile of metal. You've got a nice pile of metal you can hide behind, but you can't drive it. But no, we are walking a fine line. We are walking a very fine line. It's like the Affordable Health Care Act. We have to pass the bill so you can find out what's in it. No, I'm adamantly against that. And I've been part and parties to this with military funding and how things happen. You take a project and you don't have enough money on your project over here. Like, I got two projects. I have a project over here and a project over here. I no longer have enough money to finish this project. So I take some of the objectives of this project and I put them over on this project because this project has a surplus. Well, that's not how it should work. That's not how that should work at all. I don't pay for my neighbor's cabinet. You don't raise the... If I have $20,000 left in my budget on my house, you don't get to take my money and spend it on the neighbor's house and finish theirs. It doesn't work that way. But that our government can't get anything done. And they can't get anything done because they're busy trying to appease the vocal minority. The vocal minority is such a horrible phenomenon. And if you're a parent with 3 kids, you've fallen victim to the vocal minority. You have one kid that's quiet, one kid that's loud, one kid that doesn't ever say anything. Who do you always pay attention to? The loud kid? Putin said he's going to revisit the statement that he's not going to use nuclear weapons. I'm gonna be honest with you. Putin using nuclear weapons would be the dumbest thing ever, because Putin will use one nuclear weapon and then there won't be a Russia. And we won't use nukes. We won't use nukes because once we start using nukes, then everybody else starts using nukes. If you've ever seen the comical video where they're talking about the World War, the nuclear World War, and he says, and we're dumbasses. One day the US president says, those Chinese sons of bitches, they're going down. And then they fire and everybody fires. The US will just roll over Russia with conventional weapons. Russia has no ability to fight the United States. Everybody that has been clinging on to Russia's a threat, the mainstream media is telling everybody Russia's a threat and Putin's a threat. The only thing Putin has at the negotiating table is nuclear weapons. That is his only chip. Russia went from being the second most dangerous army in the world, or the second most dangerous military in the world, to being the second most dangerous military in the Ukraine. Think of it this way. Russia can barely make any gains in a ground war against a neighboring country. We could land 100,000 Marines in an entire armored battalion in 48 hours, and Russia would be like, where did all these Marines come from? Russia would be screwed. As long as we can focus on a single theater, I don't think there's anyone who can stop us. We can split between 2 theaters. The only problem is that what you saw at the end of the Obama era was We were in Afghanistan, and we're in Iraq, and you want to be in Libya, and you want to be in Syria, and you want to be doing anti-pirate operations off Somalia, and you want to be in Colombia and Nicaragua. I can never say that word anyway. But that was where the problem was. And like I said, Democrats want a really small army, but they want to send it everywhere. Republicans want a really big army, but they don't want to send it anywhere. But that was the problem. We had military detachments all around the world doing all sorts of stuff. And I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying that those things shouldn't happen. Each one needs to be looked at. But that, and I think that's another piece people forget, that vocal minority yells at the president and says, "You're sending our troops everywhere." And the president's like, "Yeah, that's kind of my job. My job description is commander in chief. I kind of need to do that. I kind of need to, because remember, all of our allies look to us and be like, solve our problems for us, please. Why? And to expand this, because that's the nice part about this show. We started on a topic and we can go anywhere with it. Why did Germany and London and France have all these terrorist activities, all these bombings, these nightclub bombings, these subway bombings? Why did that happen in Europe and not happen in the United States? Because these terrorists, they know that the last time somebody fucked with the United States, we deposed two governments. You're out. We think terrorists came from your country. We're taking it over. Fuck you. You remember when they had the ISIS controlled so much of the Middle East, and we sent like a handful of military advisors and they got shot at, so we dropped 5,000 angry SEALs and Delta and Force Recon and Special Operations, and then within 6 months ISIS has got no more leadership. Well, that's what happens. Yeah, single-minded focus on victory. It's the whole can't fire unless fired upon bullshit. That is the one thing I would say to people. Now is a good time to join the military. Sign up for 4 years, get your GI Bill, get your tuition assistance, get your 401k started, get some job training, get some medical, get everything taken care of. Now is a really good time to join the military, because I don't project we're going to be in a boots on the ground, putting people in harm's way for several more years. I don't think we're going to have another ground operation. I could be completely wrong, or some idiot could with a moderate-sized army could spark some shit off tomorrow. But I think now is a really great time for 18-year-olds to join the military. I think right now is a really great time for 18-year-olds to join the military, go in, get a box kicker job. What I mean by a box kicker job is you want to go into the Air Force or the Navy. You want to go into the Air Force or the Navy. You want to do the shortest basic training possible. Air Force is the best. If you want to make sure you get into the Air Force, get the ASVAB study guide. Have no felonies, have no misdemeanors, have a driver's license, stop smoking weed. Please stop smoking weed before you go to MEPS. Even if it's legal in your state. Even if it's legal in your state, you can't join the military if you pop hot on your piss test. All right? So, you go into the military, get a box kicker job, supply, medical supply, admin, services, whatever. And that way you only have like a 6 to 8 week tech school. As soon as you get to your first base, don't party, don't go to the club, don't go to the beach, take your ass to, get your 5-level upgrade, and then go to community college. And the military pays for it, 75% of it. Study for your club test, study for your Dantes. That way when you get out with your GI Bill, you finish up your degree, and they pay you like $1,500 a month. You can live on $1,500 a month if you did some amount of savings, right? It's a great time. It's a great time to join the military and get your life set up. But I might get shot. Yeah, you might get fucking shot on your way to work. What's your point? I don't like being told what to do. I got bad news for you, Skippy. You're the bottom of the fucking food chain. You're gonna be getting told what to do for the next 10 years of your life, unless you start your own business. That's just how it is. So, Kurdistan, yeah, that area of Turkey, Iraq, and Iran where Turkey doesn't actually recognize it's not an actual country, it's a geographical area, and you've got the really bad situation where they hate each other. It's a big problem. It's typical U.S. military, U.S. thinking. Yes, if you are from the country of Iraq, you are an Iraqi. However, they don't generalize themselves like that. That they don't identify as that. They identify as a Sunni or a Shia or a Kurd. And then even when you're in that, you're in different sects. It's like this. The greatest way that I can explain it to people is that people from Chicago are from Chicago, but people from Illinois are from Illinois. You'll always know a person from Chicago because they'll never say I'm from Illinois. They'll say I'm from Chicago. More likely, a person from Chicago is going to say I'm from the city. What city? Chicago. Well, why didn't you say that? Because Chicago is the city. Every other city is a city. That's how Chicago people are. If you're in and around the way, you're not like I'm from Illinois. You're like, I'm from Chicago. Now that I'm not from Chicago, well, where are you from? I'm from Chicago. You live in Chicago? No, I live in Southern Illinois. Get an MOS in the field you want to get a degree in. Reserve that job. Get out in 4 with your degree and 4 years of relevant work experience. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you can, it's not always possible to do that. But yeah, absolutely. Get out with 4 years of relevant job experience, almost your whole degree. You'll have an associate's degree. Yeah. But you see, the big problem I have with people is people don't want to fight for it. People aren't hungry anymore. And that just goes to a whole nother mindset. The vocal minority. The vocal minority are those people that are out there blaming Generation X. Now, I'm just gonna say this to you. If you aren't familiar with this, Generation X is not the cause of your problems. Generation X doesn't get involved in this crap. As a Generation X is like, we didn't do it. We just kept our heads down. We listened to too much rock and roll. We did too many drugs. We drank too much alcohol, and we had too much sex. It's not our fault. Now, some of you are products of Generation X parents. God help you if you are. I'm so sorry. Because Generation X parents were raised by their grandparents. Generation X was the first generation of like really a 2 working family, and it was still like, did you know that in America it was still uncommon to move far away from your parents? You moved close enough to your parents that your parents could babysit, watch the kids, all that stuff. We solo life. Yeah, exactly. The problem I have is it is really hard for me to take the vocal minority seriously when they start calling everybody from before 1985 boomer. Hey, genius, get a little sociology education. You'll understand that there's an entire generation that you're lumping us in with, and it's not our fault. Now, interestingly enough, as sociology does its thing, Generation Xers are split in half, but not by age. Generation Xers are split in half. Generation Xer boomer, Generation Xer millennial. Believe it or not, I'm born at the end of Generation X. I barely slide into Generation X by either 2 weeks or 3 months, depending on which group, which definition you're using. But I have more boomer tendencies than I do millennial tendencies. The reason why is, like I said, I was raised by my grandparents until I was 5. I was raised by my grandparents until I was 5. My grandmother would come and stay with us for weeks at a time in the summer because my mom worked. So my grandfather stayed at his house. My uncle, his son, they had one of those Chicago duplexes. So my grandfather stayed at that house to watch the kids, and then my grandmother came out, and the younger one, that my younger cousin came and stayed with us during the day, so that it was literally 2 babysitting sets. I have more tendencies of boomers because that's who I was raised by. I was raised I was raised by my grandparents. And that's what the silent majority, or that's what the vocal minority doesn't understand. They're busy just yelling. They're playing buzzword bingo. They're like, we need to move away from these boomer tendencies. Why? Because boomer tendencies, some of them are really good. Some of them are really bad. Some of them are really good. Which ones are we talking about? I heard an expression the other day, the difference between poor people and rich people. Rich people say, how much is it? Poor people say, how much is it down? What's my deposit? And it's kind of amazing when you think about that. Rich people leverage debt in a completely different way than poor people leverage debt. Rich people leverage debt to make more money. Poor people leverage debt to get things they can't afford. Yeah, do something wrong, get smacked upside the head. You want money? Go mow lawns. Yeah, exactly. Generation X is the most entrepreneurial generation because that's what they were told. Generation X, there was no extra money. And it's weird because you got these millennials that are constantly saying, well, you grew up in an era that you could go to college for $750 a semester. Whoa, genius. Again, that was the baby boomers. But I want to remind people, there's this bullshit that everybody likes to use the wrong data. Sure, college was $750 an hour or $750 a semester, right? But I want to remind you, college was a hell of a lot harder in the 60s and the 70s. The standards at college were a hell of a lot harder, right? A hell of a lot harder. And people forget the minimum wage in the 1960s. Okay, and this is why, remember I said, in order for us to do anything to fix any problems, we need school reform first, right? We need school reform first. So college was $750 a semester, so we're going to make that $1,500 a year, right? So college was $1,500 a year. There are 2,080 work hours in a year, right? So if you take 2080, right, and you times it by $1, you get $2,080. That's what minimum wage was. You minus 1,500 of that. All these idiot millennials, and I'm sorry, if you're an idiot millennial, you need to do some reading. You need to do some homework, right? College was $750 a semester at for $1,500 a year. That left you $580 for the year to pay the rest of your bills. Oh, that's right, because baby boomers worked full-time jobs and went to school full-time. Let me see. You're currently unemployed. You have your associate's degree. You dropped out of college and feel better off without it. Over on this YouTube channel. On this YouTube channel, I have a playlist called Educate Jalan on Education, and I talk about college isn't always the answer. I am so tired, and we talked about this during the school reform video. I am so tired of college being jammed down every kid's throat just because it sounds like a good idea that we should send every kid to college. Universities have come up with an idea that have told all of the high schools that you're not high schools anymore. You're college prep schools. Your college prep schools. It's awesome when you teach people that they're college prep schools. Because if you teach people that they're college prep schools, then you feel that if you don't go to college, you're a failure. I love meeting the kids that I love hearing from the kids that I taught 20 years ago. They contact me and they're like, Mr. J, I own my own electrical company now. Because I listened to you. I didn't go to college. I went to trade school. I went to trade school. I became an electrician. I found time in my day to learn carpentry as well, because one of the biggest problems with carpenters and electricians is they don't speak each other's languages. You end up having carpenters that are having to move boxes or drilling through support beams. So one of my former students owns his own electrical company. I'm very proud of him. Kid was in the back of the yards neighborhood, dirt poor Mexican parents, immigrant parents. The family always lived in fear. Like, the family didn't want to send the dad to the school because he was an illegal immigrant. So the mom always came in because she had papers, right? Let me see where you're going with this. They were trying to charge me full tuition price for online COVID pandemic prices. Since then, they have even worse professors because all they can get are professors that like online teaching. Well, yes, but remember, you don't pay for the education. You pay for the degree. You pay for the degree. Why do they charge for out-of-state tuition college students? Because, okay, that one I can answer. Why do they charge out-of-state tuition? Because they charge out-of-state college students more because of how state-run schools are. Colleges, states fund state colleges. So a private university doesn't charge you more for out-of-state tuition because they don't care, because they don't get any money from the state. But what happens is, real quick, I'm going to just use a nice round figure. Say it takes $10,000 a year to teach a kid at your university. It's probably more, but I'm just going to say $10,000 to make my life easy. So you split that into two. Each semester's $5,000. Well, $5,000 is cost prohibitive. Kids can't go there for $5,000. So what the state does is the state gives the university $1,000 a head. And then what the university does is then they only charge the student $4,000 tuition. And yes, I know I'm 23 years past college, or 25 years past college prices. I get it. I understand. I said I did the numbers for my convenience. So your tuition should be $5,000 a semester, but you live in Illinois and you pay taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, income tax. So the state says, Jay wants to go to your school. He's an Illinois resident. You only charge him $4,000. We give you $1,000 of state money so that he can afford to go to school. But now grumpy old man's across the border in Missouri, and he doesn't want to go to Missouri schools because they all suck. He wants to come over to Illinois. The problem is that the university charges you more because they don't get any state money for you. That's why it works that way. Now, as far as tuition, remember, you're not paying for the education. You're paying for the piece of paper at the end of the education. Goodwill Hunting is a great example of this. Do you want an education or do you want a degree? If you want an education, go to the fucking library and spend 40 hours a week reading, and you're going to get a better education than you're going to get at the university. There's a difference between gaining knowledge and gaining pedigree. I'll tell you right now, I have 3 bachelor's degrees, I have 1 master's degree, and I have 8 associate's degrees. Every single thing I'm certified to teach, I have an associate's degree in. Now, how do I have so many associate's degrees? Well, it's easy because all the associate's degrees share the same core. They share the same English 101, English 102. What's up, Name? English 101, English 102, Speech, History 1, History 2, Math 1, Math 2, Science 1 with the lab. So the 60 hours on an associate's degree, I have the 30-hour core knocked out, right? And then you take, say, psychology. I have Psych 101, I have Psych 102, I have Psych 201, I have adolescent psychology, I have advanced adolescent psychology. That's already 5 psych classes. That's 15 credit hours. Now, in order for me to be certified to teach psychology, I needed to take 3 specific psych courses. Well, now I've got 3 of the 5 remaining. Well, only an idiot wouldn't knock out the last 2 classes. But the other thing is, there are things called dual credit courses. For example, history, whatever the number was, 307. History of the French Revolution. History 307, history of the French Revolution, was also French 300 because it was French translation, and it was also political science, 300 and 309 French political thought. You take one class, you get 9 credit hours for it. Now, you don't get 9 graduating hours for it. You get 9 plug and play hours for it. Yeah, some other degree requirements can be used as electives and in others. Exactly. So the best thing you can ever do if you're in university is you should try to, first of all, getting a minor is bullshit. Don't ever get a minor. Don't ever get a minor. Get a second major. If you have to take 2 or 3 extra classes to get a second bachelor's degree, do that. There are so many people who walk out of school with a minor that are literally 2 or 3 classes away from having a second degree. It's dumb. And you would think that a university would teach you that. Nope. That's why I have an entire video on school reform. We need colleges. You don't need to be taking 60 hours of core curriculum. Now, for some people that want a cosmopolitan education, sure. But I think every high school should change. I think absolutely every high school should change. By the way, somebody made me laugh the other day. They brought up Vertek. It was DJ Vertek. He brought up the idea of home economics. And I looked up what home economics was. Home economics is supposed to be the class that teaches you basic cooking, basic sewing, family and personal finance. It's supposed to teach you all these things. I started talking to people that were home ec teachers, and they're like, dude, we don't teach any of that. We teach you a little bit on how to sew. But the problem is nobody sews anymore. What have we become? We've become a replace-it society. We have become a replace-it society. We don't repair anything. I remember the days, what do they teach now? They just teach cooking. They teach cooking and baking. That's all they do for the whole year. Anybody that's my age or a little bit older will know on Saturday mornings, every neighborhood worked the same way. Your suburban neighborhood worked the same way. Saturday morning about 7 o'clock, the early birds started with the lawnmowers, right? And then it was like everybody's out there mowing their lawn, and then you hear the weed whackers out there and everybody's edging their lawn, and then they're trimming their bushes, and then you see people, as you walk down the block, you see people with their cars up, they're doing their oil changes. You saw all that crap. Now what do people do? Landscapers come out and mow the lawn. They take their car to Jiffy Lube and they get an oil change. You know, our society has changed and these are not unintentional changes. If we continued to be self-sufficient on the weekends, our economy would have collapsed. Because we've moved from a manufacturing economy to a service economy. You feel useless for society except for my community service. Unrecognized work is the only thing that makes me happy. Well, that's good. Start a 503c. Start a charitable organization. Get paid. Make your living doing community service or charity work. Can absolutely do it. I liked to work at the Humane Society for I was a cat cuddler, because cats don't get enough socialization. A disproportionate number of cats get put down. So, unfortunately, that is the way it is. So. You're helping an organization grow. There you go. I mean, the inscription on the round table in the movie First Night, in serving each other we become free. There's something to be said about not everybody can be a leader. In order for a society to function, we need very few leaders and we need a lot of followers. Helping an organization grow is a worthy pastime. Helping an organization grow is a worthy calling. That's kind of like what took me so long to get going with this, is I have a lot of pokers and a lot of fires. The problem is I like to do this show because I like to talk. I I like to get things, I like to vent. I like to get things off my chest. I like to inspire other people. I miss teaching. I miss teaching because teaching was helping, in my opinion. I was a teacher that, like, I had kids in 7th and 8th grade, right? 4 years later, I had the same email address forever. 4 years later, I had kids emailing me, asking me for letters of recommendation to college. And I was like, yeah, send me your report cards for the last couple of years. I'll write you up one. What did I teach? I taught 7th and 8th grade social studies. I taught, my first year teaching, I was the 7th grade homeroom teacher. And then I taught 5-8 social studies. And then I taught all the homeroom stuff, English, religion, spelling, reading. And then my next year teaching, I taught 8th grade. So I taught civics, the Constitution test, and 5-8 social studies. Then I left for the military. And then when I got back, I took a job at an alternative school where I taught all the social studies. So I taught economics, U.S. world history, U.S. and world history, geography, psychology, sociology, cultural anthropology, anything the kids needed. My first year teaching at the alternative school, we taught all computer based, which I thought sucked. My second year at the alternative school, I moved into a classroom. I didn't teach on the computer. We had more kids that needed to come through. The pilot program was a success. So I taught in a classroom, and I said, all right, here's how this works. Not all of you fit exactly into this class. Some of you are going to say you already took U.S. history. Great. You're taking it again. You're going to get a different view of U.S. history, and then I'm going to give you a different credit on your report card. And then I ended up getting called up it was during the war. I got called up to come here to deploy, and then my 2-year-old broke my finger. My 2-year-old, there was this finger. My 2-year-old broke my finger, and I ended up then having to stay on home station orders to replace the guy that had to go deploy for me. Did I have children I felt I couldn't teach efficiently? Yeah, absolutely. Teachers, so to be honest, there's a bunch of bad teachers. There are a bunch of human beings that should not be teachers. It's just that simple. There are a bunch of teachers teaching right now that should not be in education at all, right? They should not be in education at all. But a lot of situations, they end up being tenured. They end up getting, being employed. That's why I'm against unions for teachers. I'm against unions for teachers because I'm against not being able to fire bad people. I'm against not being able to eliminate bad employees, right? I think if you suck at your job, you should get fired. Period. But the reason why I'm okay with unions is because there's a lot of schools that don't want to give teachers academic non-retribution. For example, if the students start talking about having a sit-in or a protest, I think that the political-based teachers should teach lesson plans on the effectiveness and the ineffectiveness of sit-ins. However, if you were to do that, you could have an administration that fires you on the spot for insubordination. You need to, there's a reason why college professors need to get tenured, because they need to be able to teach in an academic non-retribution situation. At the same time, there's some really, really good teachers, but not every teacher can teach every kid. In the tech school I went to in the military, each block had 4 instructors. What games do I play? Not really enough, not really on point, so I'm not going to take that one. The thing is that if you're a visual learner, you tend to be a visual teacher. If you're an auditory learner, you tend to be an auditory teacher. The problem is not, there's a professor, his name is Howard Gardner. He's a education guy. He has a book called The Multiple Modes of Intelligence. And off the top of my head, you have visual learners, auditory learners, interpersonal learners, intrapersonal learners, bodily kinesthetic learners, and then experimental learners. He's got a lot of different models of different people. And you learn in a couple of different ways. I hate going to the board. I always hated going to the board. Because if I'm at the board, I'm engaged in it. I'm not watching it. I'm an observer. I like to watch other people try something, and I don't like to try to do something until my probability of success is 80% or better. That's just the way I like to learn. I don't like to learn through failure. Some people love to learn through failure. Some people love learning through failure. It doesn't bother them. I can't stand it. I don't want to try something and fail. Other people do. I like to watch something, observe it, talk about it. I like to watch something, observe something, internalize it, and then when I think I'm confident, I'll try it. The problem is that we don't have, first of all, teachers don't get paid anywhere near enough, right? You want to talk about a vocal minority? You've got teachers that are begging and pleading to have a living wage, right? They are begging for something that looks like a living wage, and they can't get it. And yet you want, like, we don't get that people don't want to be teachers, or the wrong people are becoming teachers. There's an old saying in education: those who can do, those who can't teach, those who can't teach teachers. You can't have the lowest common denominator teaching the kids. But I have an entire video on this, talking about school reform. I think the biggest part of this is in the last, 25 years, maybe 20 years. Back in the day, if you jerked around at school and the teacher had to call your parents, the parents showed up, the parents stood next to the teacher, and everybody glared at you about why you were misbehaving in class. Now, you have parents that come up to the school and yell at the teacher. Now, I didn't have that problem. I never had that problem. Parent comes to the school. Hi, I'm more than willing to speak to you during my office hours. My office hours are these. I can't come in during those times. Well, when can you come in? Well, I'm here right now. Well, I'm not available right now. Why? What are you doing? It's none of your business. I'm not available right now. This is not a time I have set aside to meet with a parent. Well, you're going to speak to me. No, I'm really not. I'm really not going to speak to you. It's 8:30 at night. I've had a long day. I'm going home. When would you be available to meet? Well, the only time I can meet is at 8:30. Really? The only time you can meet is at 8:30? Can't meet at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday? Well, what do you mean? I'll meet you at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. I don't get up that early on Saturdays. Oh, so it's okay for you to inconvenience the shit out of me. But I'm up here at the school at 9 o'clock teaching parents how to read. I have a break at 9 o'clock. You don't want to come up here and meet then? Yeah, go away. Parent look at you, boy. Go away. I'm not meeting with you at 8:30 at night. I'm simply not. I'm going home. I'm going to sleep. That's the problem. We have parents and we have parents that are angry about the way their kids get treated, but the parents don't know how to be parents. So the parents are really mad that the kid is being suppressed because it makes them look bad as a parent. They don't care about the kid. They care about their standing. You have a photographic memory. When I read a textbook, I can tell you on what paragraph I read, what info, and where on the page it was. Well, my sister is an auditory learner and needs to read out loud to herself. Even better if someone else reads to her. It's all cool until you work with people and I start asking them 3 times for their name because I recognize the faces, but I can't match them with their names if I don't have files with their photos next to it. Yeah, you know, it was funny. I remember, you guys have seen on my gaming show, my spelling is atrocious. You know why my spelling is atrocious? Spell check. My spelling used to be immaculate. Why? Because I had a dictionary and a thesaurus next to my typewriter. I'm going to say that again. I had a dictionary and a thesaurus next to my typewriter. Because you would be like, wait, oh, look it up. And then you would type it because the last thing you wanted to do was retype a page. Because for those of you that aren't familiar with typewriting, one of the standards was you couldn't have more than 3 corrections on a page. It was one of those stupid standards and stupid metrics that you didn't understand at the time, but it was trying to teach you efficiency. Now we have spell check. Kids don't have to know how to spell anything. They just need to know how to spell close. I got really lazy with people's names. Why? Because I was in the military for 15 years. I don't need to know your name. Your name's on your fucking shirt. Your soup can is right there. You've got a name right here that tells me what your name is. I don't actually right here. Your name's right over here. I don't need to memorize names. It used to take me forever to memorize names. I felt bad when I was a teacher. I felt horrible. My kids had to sit in assigned seats. And they'd be like, why do we have to sit in assigned seats? Because I'm still trying to figure out what all your names are. It took me about 8 weeks to learn all their names. It took me about 8 weeks. It's a weakness of mine. Why? Because I don't put a lot of value in names. I put a lot of value in the interpersonal relationship. I don't need to know your name. Why do I need to know your name? Why do I need to know your name? I know you as a person. Very rarely do I call anybody by their actual name. My wife, I don't call her by her first name. I refer to her as Tamir on the show so that you guys know who it is on the Discord. But honey, babe, wife, mom, mother, I crave violence. You know, my best friend, Starshine. What's up, Starshine? You know, I change people's names. I add letters to their names. I take away letters from their names because that's my personal twist on you. My middle child has a 3-syllable name. I've boiled it down to 2 letters. My 4th child down has a 3-syllable name. It's a letter. Or it's nicknames. Obviously, my youngest, you hear me refer to my youngest as Gizmo the Mogwai. I definitely get down with the face thing. But, and I'm going to talk about a vocal minority group, right? You want to talk about a vocal minority? For we're swinging around the well, we're already past the halfway point of the show. I think some groups need to recognize how much damage they're doing to their groups, to their movements, to their causes by getting stuck in the mud due to the agenda of a vocal minority inside the group. I'm amazed that we're still hung up on the pronouns. I'm still amazed that we are hung up on the pronouns thing. Now, before anybody gets all bent out of shape and angry with me, I want the LG. Well, hold on, let me look it all up now because it changes so often. I want the LGBTQIA plus or LGBTQ2S plus. What LG2 SLGBTQI plus, whatever the new one. There's so many of them. I think if you're changing your acronym every other week, it's not really helping your cause anyway. You have no greater champion. You have no greater friend than me. You simply don't. Because honestly, I'm going to say this, it sounds condescending, but this is how it is. You're a vocal minority group. You're a vocal minority. You're acting like a minority group. You literally have everybody in your acronym except straight people. You are the majority, but you're acting like a vocal minority. You're acting like a vocal minority. Stop acting like a vocal minority. See, I'm tired of, and I just called them the acronym army because whatever. If you're offended by that, I can't call you that, but you can call me anything you want. Get over it. Move on. I'm tired of you being on the main stage talking all the time about an issue that is completely irrelevant. And this is where I get into trouble. Because they're like, how dare you say our issue is irrelevant? Your issue's fucking irrelevant. What do you really want? What is it you really want? Is your end goal the right pronoun? Or is your end goal equality? Because I'm standing over here 500 meters further down the race line than you, standing in the, I want you to have equality. I'm 500 meters down the race line saying, go team, get here. This is the finish line. And you're fighting over pronouns. You're fighting over pronouns. In the movie Under Siege, Tommy Lee Jones says, you can't have a movement, you need a revolution. The civil rights movement was a movement. It took us from where we are to a destination, and then its leadership all got arrested or killed, and then it died off. The civil rights movement died, and it left African Americans scattered, disconjointed, without leadership. You need a civil rights revolution. Equality should always be coming back around in your face. Equality should always be coming around back in your face. Are we equal yet? No. Let's do it again. Gays, lesbians, they want to be able to get married. Great. Let's not make the discussion point about your preferred pronouns. Let's make the discussion point. Do you have the right to get married in all 50 states yet? No. Okay, eyes on the prize. Eyes on the prize. Well, you need to see me as a human. Okay? I saw something really weird the other day. I saw something really weird and bizarre, and I didn't know how to take it. They went back, and they took an Ellen Page movie, where Ellen Page is a biological female shell. That's the term I use. Biological female shell. I don't care how you identify yourself. Biologically, your shell is a female shell. You have breasts, you have a vagina, your shell is biologically a female. They went back and Ellen Page was Ellen Page when the movie came out, and they went back and they now reference Ellen Page in that movie as Elliot Page. It's really the first time ever I've seen something that I wish that I could ask the person a question and say, hey, Elliot, did you ask them to do this? Or did they do this in some sort of sense of, we're trying to honor you, respect you, whatever. I would love to be able to ask Elliot Page that question. Should Elliot Page's earliest works, Juno, Kitty from X-Men, should you be credited as Elliot or Ellen there? Because weren't you Ellen there? See, this is where I talk about inside of a movement, you have a vocal minority that's actually a distractor to your movement. What is it you want? Do you want equality? What does equality look like? What will make you happy? What will make you happy? I want to be able to get married. Okay. I want to be able to share insurance benefits. Great. What else? I don't know. Well, then don't step up to the mic until you can answer some questions. I am the all-knowing. I am the almighty. I am Sorcerer Mickey, and I have the magic pen, and I can give you everything you want. What does everything you want look like? And that's the problem. You guys know that I'm really against vocal minorities, because vocal minorities are fringe groups. Vocal minorities are fringe groups inside of more organized organizations that start just talking on and on and on and on and on. And they never shut up, and they distract you. truthfully, I think, not to be tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, I think some of these minority groups are actually put together by bad actors to keep everything distracted, right? Truthfully, what's more important, pronouns or equality? Pronouns are equal rights, the ability to get married. Because guess what? Non-transgender people, I have never once in my life said my pronouns are he, him. I have never once said my pronouns are he, him. I don't get mistaken for a female. I mean, I don't get mistaken for a female. And if somebody did mistake me for a female, I'd be like, damn, I got to hit the gym some more. Love is more important. I don't think so. Because nobody can tell you can't love. Love is irrelevant to that discussion point. You love who you love. Nobody can stop you from loving who you love. There is no organization, there is no government in the world that can stop you from loving who you love. Love is an intrinsic, internalized feeling. You can't tell me I don't love my wife. You could say I can't. You could pass some ridiculous Gestapo fascist law that says because I'm 100% Irish, I can't marry anybody. I have to immediately divorce my wife because I'm 100% Irish and I must marry a woman who's 100% Irish. Fine. You can compel my actions, but you can't compel my feelings. You can't say to me, you can't love Tamir. No, I love Tamir. You can't be married to her anymore. Okay. You can change the behavior. You can change the behavior. You can change the ability to engage in a behavior. It's like, for example, I love people who rock the boat. I love people who rock the boat. Best people on the planet. There was and I never followed up on it because I got too many other fires. I got too many other pokers in the fire. There was a woman who had a double mastectomy. She lost both her breasts. And when she had her breast reconstruction surgery, she didn't have nipples surgically installed. She just has mounds, no nipples. And she walks around without a shirt on in her local municipality. Because the local municipality allows men to walk around shirtless, but not women. And all the minutia of the law isn't that women can't walk around topless. Women may not display their nipples, is the way the law is written. Women can show all of their breast, but not their nipples. She doesn't have nipples. So she walks around. That's a member of the vocal minority that I give a standing ovation to, because fuck the establishment. Honestly, fuck the establishment until we have laws that make sense. I don't think that a male should be able to walk around without his shirt on if a female can walk around without his shirt on, without her shirt on. I believe in equality for the sake of equality. Why? Because let's be honest, most of the men that are walking around without their shirt on, I'm not saying there's not a bunch of physically fit males that take their shirt off and, to the women they're physically appealing. But there's a lot of dudes walking around that are 2.5 Buddhas. They're 400 pounds of bubblegum shoved into a 200-pound sack. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see that at all. But that's one of those instances where I love people who rock the boat. I love people who fuck with the establishment, because the establishment is fragile. I don't know. Most of you probably haven't seen Hunger Games. I know it wasn't a very popular movie series. I liked a line in the Hunger Games. I like political dystopian futures. I like to see how writers, directors, they put together political dystopia. And President Snow says to Katniss, peace is a very fragile thing. And Katniss says, well, it has to be a really fragile system if it can be brought down by a couple of berries. That's my problem with it. If our system is so fragile If pronouns is what's going to be the end of our system's way worse than I thought it was. Do I like Elon? Like most things in life, I think some of the things that Elon Musk does is really good. I think some of the things that Elon Musk does is really bad. I think that there are people that are running around wearing knee pads that suck off Elon and every single thing he does and every single thing he says, and that's not good because that's how people acquire God complexes. I think a lot of people that talk about how important Elon Musk is, they forget the fact that Elon Musk has never been poor a day in his life. He's not a self-made millionaire. He's not a self-made billionaire. He started with generational wealth. He started off rich. Elon Musk's father owns an emerald mine, or he owned an emerald mine. Okay, his Earl Musk had a net worth of like $177 billion. Okay. So there is something different between a Bill Gates who comes from nothing and becomes a billionaire versus a guy like, and I get it. Elon Musk and his father are estranged. I get it. I know what that feeling is like. I didn't speak to my father. I didn't speak to my family for over a year. I didn't speak to any member of my family for over a year. I didn't speak to my brother for over 20 years. I didn't speak to my brother for over 20 years, and I only started speaking to him because his eldest son joined the military, which I thought was the greatest fuck you to you, Dad. My eldest brother told me I was throwing away my career when I joined the military. I joined the military because some terrorist assholes flew some planes into some buildings, right? I joined the military out of a sense of my family needs to, my family needs to kick in a little, right? My family needs to kick in a little. My brother told me I was throwing away my career. I was wasting my life. Okay, it's great. It's not your life. It's my life. What was it? I'm 16 years older than my godson and nephew. And he ended up joining the military in order to become a doctor. I thought that was the greatest fuck you to my brother ever. I didn't speak to you for 20 years, and now your eldest son followed in my footsteps, not yours. Have a good life. Spoke to him. I'll see him. I haven't seen my brother in like 2 years again. I will see my family on June 10th. I will see my family on June 10th, and then honestly, I probably won't see most of my family. That'll be it. June 10th will probably be the last time I see my family. I'll see my dad, but my brothers and sisters, I probably won't ever see them again. We're not that type of family. Now, we're the Peaky fucking Blinders. And if you fuck with any member of my family, there'll be 75 Irish newsboy cap wearing motherfuckers in suits marching towards you. So if my family called me and said there's a problem, I'd show up, but tea and biscuits, not really my deal. You have no idea how many men come to the vet clinic for growths or ticks and can't comprehend that their male pet has nipples, and I always enjoy asking them if they haven't got two of their own. Right, exactly. And again, that's what I'm talking about. With it's stupid comments like that. Not that your comment is stupid, but the stupidity behind the men in your comment is why I say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the education system in the world sucks. We are failing to educate the residents of this planet. We are failing to educate the residents of this planet. If anybody had bothered to read history, period, you would understand that the only way to keep Russia under control is every so often in Earth history, Russia invades the West. That's what they do. That's what Russia does. Russia expands west. It's what they have done for all time. The only way to stop Russia from invading west is Ukraine on the border of Russia? Yeah. Okay, we're going to give you military equipment to sit on the border. Why hasn't North Korea run over South Korea? Because there's 10,000 American military members on the border in the DMZ. Can the 10,000 people assigned to the DMZ stop the 1 million man army of North Korea from rolling south? No, not at all. Not in the slightest. Not at all. But what happens the moment North Korea attacks the DMZ? The United States hits North Korea with everything we have. With everything we have. That's why North Korea, for the last however many 40 years, 50 years, hasn't rolled south. The Korean War ended. Oh shit, it's been 50, 70 years. In 70 years. It's why the Korean War hasn't. I was thinking Vietnam in my head. It's why that's why North Korea hasn't rolled south yet. Because they know that we can bomb them with stealth bombers out of Missouri or Guam. And there ain't a damn thing they can do about it. They can't see our stealth tech. They have no ability to see our stealth tech. China and Russia won't allow us to fly over. And what? When you enter the stratosphere, you don't give a shit. And even if China and Russia want to complain about it, they ain't gonna see the stealth bombers either. They can eat a dick too. It's like, did you notice all the armchair quarterbacks talking about the vocal minority versus the silent majority? The silent majority needs to get a whole lot better at telling the vocal minority to sit down and shut up and read a book. That's one thing I'd love for the silent majority to start doing. All the people in the vocal minority, it's like, oh my God, Russia invaded the Ukraine, and now China's going to invade Taiwan because they just watched the world do nothing. China's not going to invade Taiwan. China doesn't want to fight with the United States. We have a defense treaty with Taiwan. We don't have a defense treaty with the Ukraine. Am I for vaccination and boosters? Yes, I'm for vaccinations and boosters. You want to get a vaccination? Get a vaccination. If you want to get a booster, get a booster. I'm not for telling you, that's irrelevant. I'm not for telling you have to get it. I'm for me telling me I can get it. I don't believe in infringing upon other people's civil liberties. I don't think you need to get a vaccine because I say you need to get a vaccine. I say, for example, my daughter is immune system compromised. My daughter was born premature. My daughter has an immune system issue. My daughter cannot afford to get sick. My daughter has gotten COVID's shot. She hasn't gotten the booster because the booster the shot nearly killed her. So, there's a family in town. They're right up the street. There's a family that with 8 kids. One of the 8 kids is allowed to go to the schools. The senior, the oldest girl, is allowed to go to the school. The other 7 kids can't. The only reason why the oldest girl can go to the school is she defied her parents and went and got all of her immunizations. She went to the public health clinic, said, my family is an anti-vax family. I'm whatever age, 7. I just turned 17. I want to be able to go to school. I want my vaccinations. She got all her vaccinations. She went back 30 days later, got her second round of vaccinations, walked up to the high school and enrolled herself. Her family was livid and pissed. And she's like, I want to go to school. That's what I want. I'm not against anti-vaxxers. I'm against anti-vaxxers who are stupid. I don't want my kids to get immunizations because I don't want my kids to get autism. Well, that's amazing because your kids cannot get autism from vaccinations. Penn and Teller did an absolutely amazing skit on this. If you have one child get autism out of the 110, the number, versus how many lives are saved by getting chickenpox, rubella, measles, mumps, all these other vaccinations. even if it did cause autism, which it doesn't, the risk to your child is far greater not having the vaccinations. It's like up in Oregon, there are a bunch of no measles vaccine people in Oregon. And measles is something that we nearly had eradicated. We nearly had measles eradicated because something at one point, like 90+% of the population was inoculated against measles. And the vaccine is so efficient that if you have the vaccine, you will not get measles. Now, the chickenpox vaccine isn't, well, now it is. The chickenpox vaccine is very, very efficient. Now, before it was, if you got the chickenpox vaccine, your version of the chickenpox would be a lot milder. Now there's kids that are growing up that have never had chickenpox, period. And then the same thing, polio in New Jersey. Fucking we stopped polio. We beat polio. Chris Rock did a routine in the 90s where he said, we beat polio. Ain't anybody in the audience feeling a little poly today? Like, we beat polio. And now polio makes a resurgence in New Jersey. This is the part where I think you need to have a fucking license to have kids and training to have kids. It's not you that's being affected, Karen. It's not you that's being affected, Carl. It's your kid that probably, if they could make an informed decision, would want their vaccine. Yes, I don't want to die of measles. I don't want to get polio. Give me my fucking shot. But no, these parents are like, no, my kid's not going to grow up with these vaccines. Oh, okay. Well, good on you for abusing your kid then. Well, it's my kid. I have the right. Did your parents vaccinate you? Yes. Do you have autism? No. Give your kid the fucking shot. If you want to come back to me with a better argument, come back to me with a better argument. I'll sit down and I'll debate you all day long. I will debate you morning, noon, and night, 7 days a week, twice on Sunday, about whatever your concern is, whatever your issue is. But do not come to me and say your parents vaccinated you and you're not vaccinating your children. I gave my middle daughter a standing ovation, a round of applause. I literally stood up and applauded her. My middle daughter had a number of miscarriages. She had a number of miscarriages, and each one took a little bit more out of her. Each time she would lose a baby, it took a little bit more out of her. And my daughter got pregnant, was 6 months pregnant, came to visit and said, in order for anybody to see the baby, you must be completely up to date on your vaccinations. I said, all right. I said, I'll go, I'm missing one. I'll go get up to date. I'll go get up to date on the one vaccination I'm missing. And she looked at me and she was like, wait, what? I'm like, I'm missing one vaccination. I've been living in an isolationist quarantine lifestyle. I'm Hodge from the Mortal Instruments. I don't leave the Institute. I leave my house as little as possible. But I said, because you're a mom and those are your rules for your daughter, I will go get my one missing vaccine. And I went and I got it. Because I'm your dad, but you're her mom. My rules don't affect you anymore. You're a grown ass woman. I say to my 21-year-old, I said, there are things in your life that you know that I don't know. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you've been married twice. Yep. I've only been married once. My daughter looks at me, wait, what? I said, you and your mom can have conversations about getting rid of your first pancake. I can't join in on that conversation. Your mom is my first pancake. Period. Hard to keep up even when you vaccinate your 12-year-old. My daughter got everything obligatory plus one from the non-obligatory 10 vaccines. 5 years ago, the extra 10 became obligatory, and my son has 10 more vaccines than his sister. Yeah, you're right. but there's a lot of vaccine. We are making massive medical progress. Things that, and again, and we can talk about the COVID thing. We talked about it a lot on my show when I first came back to streaming. First of all, for all of the people that say they didn't get their COVID vaccine because they don't trust a vaccine that was developed in 9 months. The COVID-19 vaccine was not developed in 9 months. The COVID-19 vaccine is a derivative of the SARS and MERS vaccine. Now, I want to, for those of you that have never, that only get your education through mainstream media, let me give you a little information about MERS and SARS. They're in the same family as COVID-19, except they are the bigger, meaner, nastier, older brothers of COVID-19. The difference between COVID-19 and SARS and MERS is this. COVID-19 is highly contagious and low lethality. MERS and SARS are low contagious. They turn your internal organs into liquid shit and you die. Even with the top medical care, one of the two, let me see if I can get them. One of them has a 30%, MERS has a 35% lethality. I want you to hear this. MERS has a 35% lethality, which means if you get MERS, even if you get immediate medical care, you have a 1 in 3 chance of fucking dying. COVID-19 can be symptomless as well. Right. COVID-19 can be symptomless. You can transmit it. COVID-19, unless you're already vulnerable, you're probably, even without any medical treatment, you're probably going to beat COVID. One of the reasons my wife and I dropped so much weight, I was up to 258. I dropped down to 190, and then I had to go on a new medication. I'm struggling with weight management. I'm struggling with water retention, really. I'm thirsty all the time. When I go to the sauna, I drop about 12 pounds. I just sweat it all out, but I'm thirsty all the time. But I want to remind people that SARS and MERS were being researched because if you get something like COVID-19, and if you guys remember back in the 80s and the 90s, the big thing was the big thing was what would happen if a patient with HIV caught certain higher transmission conditions. And there was a genuine fear in the 80s and the 90s that HIV would go airborne until they understood it. Now they understand it and they understand it can't. There was a big concern at the beginning of COVID when the Johns Hopkins University was going around and the US finally pulled the trigger on isolation and quarantine, where they said, what the hell is going to happen if somebody contracts MERS and COVID-19? Are we going to have MERS, the lethality of MERS with the transmission rate of COVID-19? Because I'm going to tell you right now, again, I'll say it one more time for the people that don't get it. They're in the same family. MERS is very, very hard to catch, but once you have it, you have a 1 in 3 chance of dying. A 1 in 3 chance of dying. You're in an ICU. You're being treated with all the modern medicine. You're a healthy adult with access to nutrition, clean water. They stick you in the arm with saline. They can keep your fever under control, and your internal organs still turn into liquid shit and you die. Okay? That's why they were so concerned about COVID-19, because they didn't know what COVID-19 was going to turn into. Where do I go to the sauna? The base has a sauna. I'm a vet, so I can just go on base. I go to the pool. I go to the gym to go to the pool. And then I go to the sauna to sweat out all the toxins. But no, these are the things that the vocal minority wants to go on and on and on. I'm an anti-vaxxer. Did you notice I talked about this on my show, my gaming show, because I run a gaming channel as well. Did you guys notice that back in 2020, 2020, all the work from home jobs disappeared? Did you notice that? All the work from home jobs disappeared. Because now all of a sudden people are at home and they want to work and all these magical jobs go away. Did you also notice that the anti-vaxxer movement almost got deleted during the lockdown? And I say this. My whole life I've engaged with anti-vaxxers because I find them fascinating. I do. I find anti-vaxxers fascinating. Most of the anti-vaxxers that I know, a lot of them converted and got their vaccines after COVID-19. All these anti-vaxxers are like, you don't need vaccines. You don't need vaccines. We don't need vaccines. Hey, Karen, look at the state of the world right now. And this is us missing one vaccine to a very minor thing. Look at Oregon. Look at Oregon and the measles outbreak. The measles outbreak is shutting down entire towns, quarantining towns because you have measles. So a lot of anti-vaxxers realized they were eating the propaganda. Christian Science, a lot of those people realized they were eating up the propaganda. I'm not saying you can't have your religious beliefs. You have whatever religious beliefs you want. I am not here to shit on your religious beliefs. If you want to keep kosher, keep kosher. Please don't get offended at me when I eat a ham sandwich in front of you. I had a Jewish friend, a practicing Jew, Judaism. He got mad at me. We went out for lunch one time and I ordered a ham sandwich. He's like, I can't eat that. I didn't order you a ham sandwich. I ordered me a ham sandwich. He's like, but we can't sit at the same table now. I said, why? Because it's against the tenets of my religion. It's against the tenets of your religion to eat at a table where I'm eating a ham sandwich. I'm not shitting on your religion, but I think somebody made a fucking typo in your religion. I think your vocal minority is forgetting that your religion said don't eat pig 3,000 years ago because pork was killing people. Because pork was killing people. You didn't have the ability to process pork properly. Pork was killing people. How many people every day eat pork and don't die? Well, pork used to kill people because the worms in pork used to kill people. So Chris Rock, again, great comedy skit. Pork is killing people. How do we get people to not eat pork? We'll tell them God said don't eat it. Now, if God didn't want us to eat pigs, why did he put pigs on the planet? I'm not saying you can't have your beliefs. I am one of the few people on the planet I respect almost every religion. I respect almost every religion. I don't get down on some of these weird ass religions where people create religions in order to do bad behavior. I don't get down on some of the sects that have 12-year-old wives. It's fucked up shit, man. That's fucked up shit. If there's a God in the megaverse that allows that behavior, you keep that shit to yourself. I have friends that are Islamic. I have friends that are Jewish. I have friends that are Buddhist. I have friends that are Catholic, Christian, Baptist, Lutheran, non-denominational evangelical. I will get into a debate with God with you. Is God a man? Is God a woman? Is God transgender? Is God this? Is God that? Or is there one God? Are there 100 faces of one God? I don't know. I guess on Judgment Day we find out. But I'm not going to shit on you for your religion. But please stop trying to dictate my life. Right? Please stop trying to dictate my life to me based on your religious tenets. I was born and raised a Roman Catholic. I nearly converted to Baptist. I think there's one thing in the Baptist faith that makes a hell of a lot more sense than Roman Catholic faith. The vocal minority. I'm not here to try to change. I'm here to tell you what I believe, why I believe. I'm not here to convert you to what I believe. I'm not here for that. I'm here. The vocal minority, Jalan, is here to say you need to get smarter. Is that bad advice? You need to work out a little bit more. Is that bad advice? You need to eat a little healthier. Is that bad advice? These are just general. You need to read. You need to put the porn down, and you need to read a little more. Is that bad advice? We're going to talk about the vocal minority and the silent majority. Is that a bad discussion to have? We had a nice 2-hour discussion. Is that a bad discussion to have? No, I don't think it is. Anyway, it's Christmas Eve. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure that as we go through, make sure that you show up on Saturdays. Next week's New Year's Eve, going to do a show there. I'm going to do a show on New Year's Eve as well. I'm going to try to do this show every Saturday. If you have a topic you want me to talk about, or a topic you really want to talk about, so I need to talk about it so you can have your soapbox so you can come in, let me know. I'll let you know when I'm going to do that topic so you can go in a Word and you can type up you can have your pre-typed in things. Hey, I want to say this. Boom, it's all typed out. I'm more than happy to do that. With that said, I'm going to get out of here. I want to, talk to my wife. I got to get this loaded. I got to get this dressed up. Got a lot of things to do. I will see you guys next Saturday for this show, but remember, I run an entire other gaming channel Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I will see you guys the next time I see you. Have a happy holiday.